Welcome to another episode of Chris McDaniel's America here on the Midnight Ride Network. With me, as always, Jack Fairchilds.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, and also a very special guest. I'm going to get to her in just a moment. Senator Kathy Chisholm is here today. Kathy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, now I tell you, if you don't know Kathy's story, you're going to hear it this episode because she's done something pretty remarkable. She's basically exposed or helped expose what we consider to be a small town invasion. You'd be surprised out there, even in places like Mississippi, small towns, perhaps all across this country, illegal aliens are being shipped in, and they're being processed to those towns. She caught it, she fixed it, she corrected it. We're going to talk to her about that story here in just a bit. Also, I want to talk about Justice Alito at some point today. Poor guy happens to have an opinion on the state of the country. Now the liberals want him to recuse himself from any further Supreme Court proceedings, it seems. And also, just generally speaking, to start, what is fatalism? What is ego? How do those two terms mix together to create this failure in politics that we're witnessing right now? Fatalism, properly defined, is basically an idea that everything is falling apart and there's nothing we can do about it. That's an important component in modern society because people seem to be very fatalistic right now. On the left, on the right, people say there's nothing we can do, so they cover their eyes, they bury their head in the sand, and they pretend nothing is wrong. That's where politicians take advantage of us because they have something on their side that fuels their ambition, that forces them to act in ways that normal people perhaps normally would not act, and that's called ego. Now, what exactly is ego? And you'll hear different psychologists explain this in different ways, but let's just pretend that ego is that intermediary between yourself and the way you see the world, and also the way the world sees you, or better yet, describe how you perceive the way the world sees you. Ego is dangerous in politics. I'm going to give you some examples of that because we see it everywhere right now. Take, for instance, the small town mayor. And that small town mayor thinks he wants a new splash pad. Of course, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with splash pads. People have splash pads. Splash pads are fun. But that small town mayor, instead of saving, instead of planning, instead of perhaps floating a bond where the city itself is personally responsible, the small town mayor gets on a flight, he goes to D.C., he gets in line, and he begs for money. You see, his ego needs the splash pad. He wants to do something. He wants to feel special. He wants to be empowered. Meanwhile, the city's sewer pipes are failing. The city's water pipes are failing. He does nothing about that. Why do you ask? Because you can't take a picture in front of a sewer pipe. Politicians are egoists. They don't care about you. They don't care about this country. They care about perpetuation of power and fame, celebrity, if you will. And that's why we all think they've gone crazy. Do you know why we think they've gone crazy? Because 95% are, in fact, pathological. That's exactly right. I said it. Their egos control their thought process, and so they don't make good decisions when it comes to governance. Splash pads, cute, necessary, hardly. Bike trails, cute, necessary, hardly. Yet they neglect the most important aspects of their town because, again, it doesn't give them fulfillment. It's the same way in Jackson, Mississippi, our state capital, or in Washington, D.C. If you'll watch these knuckleheads, it really is all about their personal ego. Think about it. They'll tell you one thing campaigning, knowing they have no intention of following through on any of that. Then they'll go to either Jackson or to Washington, and they fall right into line with the powers that be. Why do they do that? They love feeling powerful. There's no real power. I mean, think about it. You go to Washington and you kiss Mitch McConnell's butt and he gives you a job. You feel powerful, but really you're an appendage of Mitch McConnell. Same thing in Jackson, Mississippi. You go up there, you kiss Delbert Hoseman's butt, he gives you a job. You feel powerful, but really you're just an appendage of Delbert Hoseman. You're nothing. But remember, to an egoist, perception is more important than reality. They want to feel good. They want to feel special. They love those lobbyists and those free dinners. They love the free ball game tickets. They want to feel like they're privileged. I don't know what causes that. I guess psychologists could disagree. Maybe they weren't hugged enough as children. Maybe who knows what it was. But, normally, I guess it could be a number of certain conditions. In my experience in politics, and I had 16 hard years fighting the establishment, the biggest egoists are always the ones that probably were the least popular in high school.
That's accurate.
Let's not kid ourselves here now. You know who I'm talking about, those that are fatter than they are tall.
Yes.
You know who I'm talking about, those with those Quaker haircuts that couldn't afford a real haircut. You know what I'm talking about. You didn't have friends in high school. But now, because you have a title, you think you're special. And here's what happens. You finally, for the first time in your life, feel loved. Now, nobody really loves you. It's the title they're after. Nobody really loves. The lobbyists don't love you.
No.
The lobbyists are using you. And you're using the lobbyist. It's a mutual benefit to you both. But nobody loves you. You're still looking for love in all the wrong places. What song was that back in the day? Was that Kenny Rogers? Looking for love in all the wrong places. Is that right? Kathy, you would know this. You're from North Mississippi.
Yeah, and you're just telling everybody how old I am.
I wasn't going there.
These politicians,
Still
right?
Chris.
We'll get to you in a minute. You're my favorite. These politicians still are looking for love in all the wrong places.
It's true.
And it's hilarious because they think you're funny and clever and smart. People see through this. They see through it. They see you kissing leadership's tail. They see you sacrificing your principles. It's just that they don't want your job. If they wanted your job, they could probably take your job. They don't want your job because they see what a loser most of you are. Now, with that said, I'm trying to be too harsh. I said most, not all. There's some really good ones out there. There are good ones that don't chase their egos. There are good ones that don't chase power or celebrity just for the sake of power and celebrity. There are good ones that actually will take a stand, even when sometimes it appears unpopular, and they do it because they're fighting for all the right things. You see, ego is dangerous, hubris even more so. The ancient Greeks used to look at hubris, and they thought that was the most dangerous personality trait a person could have. Usually it was the tyranny, the despots, those that were after power. Those were the ones that victims of hubris. And so they tried to find men and women that weren't victims of hubris. And here's what happened. It's kind of crazy, but you might remember Socrates. Anybody remember Socrates? Some people. He believed that truth was absolute. But there was a group that took rise there in ancient Greece called the Sophists. Mm-hmm. And they believed that truth was subjective. What does that sound like? It sounds a lot like today's liberals, doesn't it? There's no right or wrong. There's no absolute truth. You do you. Everything's fine. Whatever you think is right. Whatever you think is wrong. Everything is fine. Well, Socrates said that was nonsense. Mm-hmm. Well, wouldn't you know, the mob, which, early democracy, this is the way it worked, early democracy in Greece, they accused him of being subversive.
Yes.
By alleging there was an absolute truth in society. He was subversive. He was a bad guy. So he was executed, proving once again that democracy isn't really the best form of government. Because sometimes the passions and the prejudice and the biases all get swept up, and that overwhelms common sense, overwhelms reason and intellect. And later it was Plato that tried to argue that, some form of republic should be created. I didn't necessarily agree with his overall synopsis of what he thought was correct, but he recognized the dangers in pure democracy because of ego and because of people's own selfish ambitions. And he recognized it was unworkable. And here we are, America, in an unworkable scenario because of those knuckleheads you keep electing. But I've got one here today that's not like that at all. And I want to talk to her because, and I want you to get to know her because she is one of my favorite politicians of all time. And it just so happens she was my desk mate for the past 4 years, and she has the best writing pens.
I've heard that, I heard she had the best writing pens, but maybe some have gone missing, Chris. You care to comment on that?
Literally dozens, if not hundreds, have gone missing. If you check the back of my car, you're going to see Senator Kathy Chisholm pens all over the back of the car. And I'm going to brag on her just for a second because I'm pretty harsh on politicians as a whole. And I became more harsh the longer I served because I kept saying the same repetition of human behavior. Whole different group of people every few years, same type of just low down, dirty, corrupt, nasty, do anything bus kissers we got right now. Mm-hmm. And then every so often, somebody shows up like her. And she's there for all the right reasons. She wasn't there to advance. She wasn't there to try to gain notoriety or celebrity or fame. She was there to serve the interest of her constituents. What a novel concept.
Who would have thought of?
Well, the Greeks would have put a white toga on you and called you very special. That's the way it used to work. That was the idea, that people would actually serve based in reason, based on what was best for people, as opposed to the power. We've gotten away from that, but not Senator Kathy Chisholm. She represents a district in North Mississippi and is served with a tremendous amount of distinction over the last 4 years, becoming one of the most conservative members of the chamber, and one of the most well-respected members of the chamber. Now, here's what she's done over the last few days. Your country's being invaded right now. You know this intuitively. You know what's happening. You see the southern borders completely out of control, and you know that Joe Biden has not the ability nor the desire to do anything about closing the border. It appears no one really has, with the exception of Trump to a certain extent, over the last 40 years. It's just been as open can be. There are consequences to that, and we'll get to those consequences in a second, but Senator Chisholm uncovered something here in Mississippi that impacts every single listener out there today. You may not live in Mississippi. You could be Alabama or Texas or Illinois, but a small town just like hers could be manipulated, impacted, and changed forever by Joe Biden and his accomplices that happen to be Republicans in some instances. Here's what happened. Kathy, you tell me if I'm wrong about this. But you uncovered basically a plot whereby several hundred Guatemalans were going to be shipped into New Albany, Mississippi, a small town. They were going to be shipped there and processed there.
Exactly.
You uncovered it.
Yes.
Tell us what you did. Tell us what happened.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you having me here today, too. On May the 11th, May the 11th, on a Saturday, a week ago Saturday, I received a phone call from one of my friends, and they had just passed the United Methodist Church in Glenfield. It's actually called the Glenfield United Methodist Church. And there was one of our 911 trailers out there about to set up, and they called and wanted to know, hey, what's going on? So this person that was called said, well, there's about 700 Guatemalans that are going to come in here today. Well, he had gotten his days mixed up, so it wasn't that day, it was next Saturday, so that gave us a week to work on it. And as soon as I got the phone call, then I sent a text to our governor asking him for some help or advice to stop this. And as time went on, I didn't hear back from him. He sent me a text back and said that he would check into it and get in touch with me and let me know what was going on. So in the meantime, I'm not hearing from him. Monday morning, the Saturday that happened, Monday morning, I called one of his staff members, and I was told again that they would get back with me that day, and I didn't hear anything. So on Tuesday, I made 2 more calls to him. Still didn't get any answers. I was beating the bushes here, like beating a dead horse. So I had talked to Representative Eubanks because he had gone through the same thing. April the 9th, he actually got wind that Benny Thompson was going to bring in over 2,000 to the Grand Casino, which is a hotel that's been shut down for a long time.
And that's in Tunica, just to fill in the listeners that may not be from Mississippi. And Dan Eubanks is a representative from that area.
That's
and by the
right.
way, Dan Eubanks is a great guy.
Super good guy.
Super good conservative guy. And so he's also working to stop this small town invasion, right?
Exactly.
Okay, and the other guy you mentioned, Benny Thompson, let's just tell you who he is real quick. Ultra-liberal, radical, African-American Democrat from the Delta. And he's served up there for a long, long time.
Long time.
And coincidentally, the Delta is still the poorest region in the country.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's not coincidental. It's cause and effect. But anyway, go ahead.
But he's not the poorest. Now he went in poor, and now he's worth millions. Yeah. So he's going to be making a lot of money off of these Guatemalan or illegals, because they may not all be Guatemalans. So anyway, Representative Eubanks had ran into the same problem, and I asked for advice. And then I got calls from some of the other representatives over on the northeast side of Mississippi, and they told me kind of what I needed to do. So I contacted some of my Republican women, and let me tell you, they work hard. They're bulldogs in my area, and they're bulldogs for the right reason. So they started making calls also, and they weren't getting any response. And so at this time, I start stirring the pot and firing up the people in our community. And by the time everybody got fired up, it was like putting so much pressure on everybody, on your elites, I guess I could call them, that something had to be done. And that's kind of where we're at today.
So let's just consider this for a moment. You've got, for whatever reason, information of 700, perhaps, illegals being processed in a small town in Mississippi.
Yes.
You know, you got to give the liberals credit, and I guess the Republicans credit that are for this. How clever is that? I guess they think they can maintain it under the radar, right?
That's right.
And yet, thank God for you, because you found it, you discovered it, and you brought it to light. And here's what's funny about that. If you don't have the intestinal courage, the fortitude to stand there and bring this to light, guess what? It happens and no one says a word. No one says a word. And you've done something that's incredibly important. All these knuckleheads at the Capitol trying to fight for a silly little chairmanship position at the Capitol did nothing to help you whatsoever. No. But here's what's going to happen. Now that you've alerted the outside part of the state, outside the Capitol, and now that they've gotten involved, everybody's going to take credit for this. Oh, yeah. But we're not letting that happen. We know who deserves credit for this, and that's Senator Kathy Chisholm. Okay?
Kathy, I've got a question, too, because you said that when it was originally brought to your attention, they thought that the illegals were being brought in that day. Fortunately, you had 7 days to get involved and make the stop. If it hadn't been for that 7 days, do you think it would have been possible to bring this to a stop, or would it just happen?
No, it would have just happened. After I got wind of everything that was going on, then there was what they called an emergency supervisors meeting called on Monday morning. I found out about that by chance. So I show up at the meeting, and our chief of police, he came in and he started apologizing. He said he had known about it for more than 2 months.
Wow.
And he didn't feel that there was any need to call our sheriff or to call our supervisors. So then 2 months later, here we are, I find out. And I want to give a shout out to 2 of my supervisors because it was hard for them. They stood strong. They voted no on letting the Guatemalans come in here and use our taxpayer fairground and use our taxpayer security. So it was hard for them, but they did stand strong and vote no. The other 3 supervisors did not. They folded. They said, let them come in, use fairgrounds, whatever. So at this point, then this meeting breaks up. I have a radio podcast that I have to go to. The supervisors are going to an event that was happening by the UCDA it was an awards event for the elites in New Albany. And the supervisors go to that. Now, I was invited to the meeting, don't misunderstand me, but I had the radio podcast to do. So the pastor, one of the pastors, there's 2 pastors of that church in Glenfield. One of them, I'm told, just breaks right up in the middle of their awards banquet, and he starts yelling at the supervisors that they're not Christians, and then he accuses me. He says, Kathy Chisholm's trying to start a riot. I'm not trying to start a riot. I'm trying to stop things that are happening. I'm trying to protect my people. I love my people.
You look like the kind of person that would start a riot.
I'm a rioting person.
It's always those young Republicans starting riots out there.
That's right.
The city's down, isn't it? You've done something remarkable for 2 reasons. First of all, because you had the courage to do it, and it worked. But also, and this is important for the people watching right now, spread the word. Spread the word, because it could be coming to your small town next. And you may not have any help with your senator or representative, because a lot of those are co-opted. A lot of those are more concerned about satisfying leadership, and they're afraid to offend anybody, so they take no action. It may fall on your shoulders. You may have to get out there and raise the stink and raise the awareness and raise the attention to these matters to force people to take action. 2 types of action in this country, right? One that takes place inside the Capitol. But the best kind of action is when you stir up the people and they cause the action inside the Capitol.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do here, raising attention to this very sensitive issue. If it's happening in Mississippi, it's happening everywhere.
Exactly.
Everywhere. Because 700? And we know there are thousands swelling across the border.
Yes.
I mean, what's next, guys? Huntsville, are you next, right?
Or more locations in Mississippi.
Or more locations in Mississippi. Maybe Taylorsville next time.
Yeah.
But the key is you got to get your politicians to actually do the right thing for a change. You have to actually take action. You have to force these people to do the right thing. And here's why. It's the old reptilian brain, right? They recognize fear and positive stimuli. That's pretty much it. They love praise, or they wouldn't be in politics. You know how egos are. They love that praise. But until they actually have fear about maybe losing their office or about potentially a challenger, they never change behavior. But illegals are here, and they're coming, and it's a problem. And let me ask you this. I know you also have some help with the young Republicans, the female Republicans, women's Republicans.
The Republican women.
They were also helpful to you up there.
They're awesome. They fight hard. They stand behind me. But they're really Republicans. They're not rhinos. In my area, the Republican women are true to the call. And Chris, it really amazes me because it's a simple thing to do. Love your people, fight for your people. don't fight for those in Jackson. I'm not worried about the ones in Jackson. I don't get a chairmanship. I don't care. They can do whatever they want to with the chairmanship. My people are way more important to me than a chairmanship. When I first went in and I was told, go in, do a good job, make friends. When you make friends, then you're going to get a chairmanship. You're going to take the bacon back home. I'm not worried about bacon. I'm worried about the safety of my people. I love my people,
Right.
and they know that I love them.
Now, what if we had, let's just say the U.S. Senate, what if we had 100 senators that felt just like that?
Oh, it'd be awesome.
I promise you this country would be on the right track.
Yes, sir.
What about in the state Senate? If we had just 52 senators that felt just like you did, this country would be on the right track. But their egos won't allow them to come around to our way of thinking. Now, here's the great disconnect. The people we're talking to right now, they see it. They don't change it. They fall for the same old game. When that politician stands there and tells you he brought jobs into your community. No, he didn't. The private sector brought jobs into your community. You can't take credit for that. Or he comes up with his new library. Well, that's the taxpayers that pay for that, not him. But people see it and they say, oh, just so-and-so, such a nice guy, he's worked so hard. But they never ask the follow-up question. What was the cost of that?
Yeah.
What other votes did he have to sacrifice? Put better, how many times did he betray his own people just to get that library?
Exactly.
How many times did he betray them just to get that new, whatever, shiny new object in his district? And it happens all the time.
That's right.
You've seen it and I've seen it, and it's a quid pro quo. It's not even quid pro quo. It's you scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Exactly.
You scratch my back, I scratch yours. And people know that stinks. I don't know why they keep falling for it, but they do. Our job is to make sure they don't fall for it. Our job is to actually bring truth to this and to unravel these mysteries so people can actually see what's going on. Now, if you don't stand, 700 Guatemalans, Lord knows what happens right there in Uvalde, Mississippi.
Right. But I had to stand and fight for it because I couldn't see that happen to my people.
Absolutely. Your people. And it goes back to that old notion, the Greeks and the Romans even, as corrupt as they ultimately became, they at least strived for a time where they would have noble leaders, people that actually do things and not simply for political expediency, not simply for selfish political gain. I'll tell you something else, and you've seen this in Jackson. These knuckleheads all lining up for the next office.
Exactly.
And they don't.
Worried about the next election.
That's all they care about. And when that happens, they don't care about you. They're covering their butts all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a game they play. And you keep wondering, why are things so bad? Why are things so bad? Exhibit A, your state capitals. Exhibit B, Washington, D.C. I thank God you were there to do the right thing here.
Well, I appreciate that, Chris. And I can't take all the credit because, like I said, my Republican women, they went to bat for me. I give all the glory to God, but I give the credit to these women. Now, we do have a representative that is a member of that church, Representative Creekmore. And I haven't heard him say one way or another, and he sure wasn't there standing behind me fighting to stop this. So,
No, but he'll do his best to take credit for it at some point. Oh, I'm sure. But we're not going to forget that. We know who that guy is. And he's playing the same old ugly shell game the rest of those cats play. And I understand y'all had a meeting the other night, and he stands up there and he talks about these great committees he's on. What was the price he paid to get on those committees? If not just a bunch of butt kissing out there.
yeah.
And I guess the price here, and I'm speculating, I don't know how facts to back this up, but one would think he would have stood with you on this fight.
And not worried about being a chairman of a committee or having
Exactly right.
committees.
That's exactly right. Maybe we just stand for our people to quit worrying about climbing the halls in Jackson.
That's right.
I
don't have a committee, but I'll sacrifice a committee or anything else. And it's like I told him Monday night. I said I don't have a committee because last year I campaigned politically incorrect.
Well, you think about
Or
that.
correctly.
It was correctly, but it was politically incorrect. But it was correctly done.
We'll consider this now. This is something else that people need to see. You're being punished because you're a conservative.
Yes.
I was punished because I was a conservative.
Yes.
If you'll look, I'm just going back a few years now because I was up there way too long. But if you go back prior to 2014, when Thad Cochran and I had that great unpleasant race here in Mississippi, right? Go back to that. I had one of the highest passage rates of any representative or senator in Mississippi. Nothing I did. We had good leadership. I had good bills and they were flowing through. The instant I dared to step out of line, they cut my head off.
Exactly.
Haven't passed a single bill since. And they say, well, Chris is ineffective. No, the establishment is ineffective.
Exactly.
I just had the courage to stand against them. They may be paid the ultimate price. Now, the people still haven't recognized that. Sitting here today, you're not serving on committees. He didn't appoint you.
Well, now I am serving on committees. I have 6, not 9.
Oh, not.
I was 3 were taken away, and I have no chairmanships and no vice chair. He took that away.
So no chairmanships, no vice chairs. And I'm sure the committees are incredibly powerful.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Let's just get that right out in the open.
We were told that these people weren't vindictive, that they wouldn't do that.
What they want is for Kathy to get in line, sit down, and shut up. Let the illegals come if they're going to come. Let's pass bad bills if we're going to pass them. Just don't say anything against us. And if she says something, she has to pay the price.
Absolutely.
But I promise you it's a price worth paying.
I'll pay the price. I don't mind paying.
It's refreshing to have somebody willing to take that stand, especially considering how many out there will not, because it's so much easier to just fall in line and do whatever they tell you to do. Because again, you get the nice chairmanship, you get the nice title here or there, you get possibly tapped on the shoulder to be the next one in line to run for another office. So it's so much easier. And that's why it's refreshing to have somebody like you, Senator Chisholm, that will stand up to this and be willing to take the backseat.
Old school, good old boys club.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not in their club, you can't play.
You can't play.
You can't play.
I don't play well anyway.
I don't either. I don't either.
And Chris, something that I want to bring to our attention, because you was talking about the elections, like back in the Thad Cochran election. Think about this. Last year, Delbert Hosemann lost North Mississippi. He lost Pontotoc. That was huge for me. He lost my entire district. He lost Tippah County, Marshall County. Marshall County's a Democrat county. He lost it. Now, he did win Alcorn, and he did win Lee. But most of those counties he lost. Then you turn around to this year, the primaries already. Wicker lost right there in his own back door.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think all of these illegals are hitting North Mississippi?
Yeah, you got it.
To turn it over.
It's funny that very well. And if they get the chance to vote, I'm pretty sure they're not going to vote for the GOP. But they would vote, but they would vote for Roger Wicker.
Exactly.
You see the distinction there.
They'll vote for Delbert Hosemann.
They vote for Delbert Hosemann. They see the distinction there. If anybody thinks Delbert Hosemann's a Republican, you just haven't paid attention. Now, I realize he raised $5 or $6 or $10 million or whatever and put 30 push cards in your mailboxes and made me look like the devil incarnate. That's fine. If you think he's a conservative, you're an idiot.
If you think he's a conservative, you need to sit down and have a talk with me.
With all of us, right?
That's right.
But that's water under the bridge.
That's right.
That's water under the bridge. What matters now is that we expose every one of them.
Right.
And I want them to know it's happening.
Right.
And every time they come to you and they start something, it's going to happen. And one of these, and I hope they'll watch. Don't worry, they're watching. Mm-hmm. And they all have such great ambitions and such great plans. We're going to be there to remind the people who you are. Trust me. Just because I've been quiet all this time doesn't mean I'll stay quiet. You'll get your statewide chance at some point, and people are going to learn the truth about you people, one way or the other. Not all of you. You know who I'm talking about. There's still some good people up there. Yeah. You serve with some good people. But for the most part, it's a corrupt den. It is. Just like in Washington.
And talking about good people, I really want to give a shout out to Senator Angela Hill, because she has really helped me a lot.
Yeah.
She's still one of your good Republicans.
Absolutely. There are some good ones up there.
Yes.
In the House, too, there are some good ones up there. It's just we're so dadgum outnumbered.
We are.
Because of ego.
Yeah.
Because of ego. But that's
we have 36 Republicans. If they were really Republicans, we could get a lot done.
Amen.
It's crazy. The math of that is mind-blowing, isn't it? Think about this. There are 52 state senators. 36 are Republican. Now do the math. That's 36 to 16, right?
That's right.
And we can't eliminate the income tax? It's 36 to 16, and we can't seem to pass good, strong, conservative legislation. Every couple of months, I see where some state has passed something really red, really conservative. Not Mississippi. And the reason is because 36, the state they're Republican, there's a bunch of posers up there, including your lieutenant governor.
Exactly.
And but of course they can't say anything, because if they were to say anything against him, their bills get killed and they don't get their little special appointments and things of this nature. But look, it is what it is. No point in beating a dead horse. That's all going to come eventually, because when they cast these votes, when they walk down this path and then they try to run for statewide office one day, we're going to be here to remind the people they are and why they're doing what they're doing. Now, with that said, illegal immigration. I'm going to talk about that just a bit more, but Jack, we have a couple of sponsors to thank.
Yes, we do, Chris, and this year has come with a lot of uncertainties. Will red-hot inflation continue? Will interest rates continue to soar? How can the Fed promise a soft landing when all signs point to another serious recession? If the beginning of this year has shown one thing, inflation is not slowing down, and the Fed is completely incapable of fixing these issues. Like millions of other Americans, I've found myself asking, how am I going to protect myself and my family? That's why we at the Midnight Ride Network spoke to the folks at Genesis Gold Group, our new platform partner for the Midnight Ride. They walked me through how I can protect my savings with real physical gold and silver. Genesis makes it easy to convert your 401k or your IRA into a retirement account backed by precious metals like gold and silver. Genesis Gold Group has decades of experience helping folks just like you preserve your hard-earned savings, and the service provided to their clients is truly one of a kind. Call Genesis Gold today at 800-200-GOLD for a no-commitment, informative consultation with one of their experts to find out if Genesis Gold can be a fit for you. That's 800-200-4653 or visit them at midnightridegold.com. And when it comes to protecting you and your family's future, I'm excited to share with you another one of the Midnight Ride's new sponsors, Prepper Beef. Prepper Beef offers a range of freeze-dried beef and freezer boxes with steaks and roast made from high-quality, all-American cattle. These products are made to last for up to 20 years, ensuring you have access to premium beef for decades to come. By supporting Prepper Beef, you're not just buying beef, you're supporting American ranchers, values, and your family. Join us in our mission to eat well today and eat well tomorrow. Visit midnightridebeef.com and stock up for your future.
Very nice. Very nice. I appreciate that. And please, if you get a chance, take a look at those sponsors. They're really good to us, and I think you'll enjoy their products very much. Illegal immigration is something that's been happening for a long time, and we have done our very best to fight it. And I'd be doggone, we just keep losing because no one takes any real action. You sometimes wonder, what's the impact of unfettered illegal immigration into this country? The first is it's economic, isn't it? I mean, for every illegal worker that comes in, they're really deflating wages for the average American blue-collar worker, and that happens all across the country. And unfortunately, Americans don't seem to want to work as much as they used to. Furthermore, we have a lot of people that are not in the workforce that should be working, and I would take it a step further. If you're on the public benefit, payroll, welfare, whatever the case may be, and you're able-bodied, it's time to get to work. And, the idea that we would offer those jobs to illegals as Americans are sitting their fat butts at home not working, that always troubled me greatly. I've always questioned, why couldn't there be a database where we basically interlay over one and the other where jobs are needed and where these people are in these zip codes that presently aren't working? Send them a notice in the mail at 7 a.m. saying, you need to be at work at 9, here's a job for you. And if they don't show up, cut off the public benefits. What's wrong with that?
That's right.
And that's the second stage. Illegal aliens, at some point, the liberals say they don't get public benefits. They do get public benefits.
Yes.
And one of the primary public benefits they get are public education free of charge. So remember, whenever they come and they're clouding the system, there is a cost to the taxpayer. There's national security concerns. Who are these folks? Where are they coming from? What on earth is happening? How many could be Al-Qaeda, for goodness sakes? We just don't know. Because when you have an open border, you're not processing correctly. No one is suggesting there not be an immigration policy. We all want an ordered, clean, efficient, legal immigration policy. Because I tell you right now, some of the hardest working people I know are from South America and Mexico. Right. But they came here the right way. Right. They're some of the kindest, most pleasant, Christian-centered, family-centered people in the world. And they did it the right way. But if you don't do it the right way, you're actually taking advantage of those that did. And you're hurting their chances of success. I'm going to get to another point there in a second, but I would suggest this as well. This is going to get me in trouble, Kathy. You don't have to. Okay, you don't have
I
to.
stay in trouble, so just
You don't.
keep it
You don't
moving.
have to okay this. I've never understood. Now listen, illegal immigration is wrong, and it's got to be stopped. But I've never understood so much ire toward people, particularly the good ones that are trying to better themselves. Who's more dangerous to the overall foundational stability of this country? A person from another country trying to better themselves, or white liberals?
White liberals.
It's not even a close
That's a
call.
no-brainer.
It's not even a close call. I would trade them every day.
Exactly.
But here's some of the other real-world issues we have to face, especially when you can't control or know who they are. Did you see the story in Sweden from yesterday? This is important because Sweden, they are arguing, according to The Guardian, is basically in a state of almost civil war. Now, they're not fighting over the country's government or control of the government, but there's heavy violence in the suburbs. Heavy violence in the suburbs. And it just so happens most of the violence is being caused, and this shouldn't shock anybody, they're not Swedish causing the violence. They're immigrants
Immigrants.
causing the violence. And I'm going to read this only because if I were to say this out loud, the show would be canceled. Are you ready for this? I'm going to read. This is not my words now. These aren't my words, Kathy. You don't have to. I did not write this. This is a research paper published in 2020 trying to understand this steep increase in crime in Sweden, right? And there's an economist here who studied, every demographic he could and tried to understand who's committing these crimes. At the time, in 2017, just prior to the study being released, 58% of those suspected of crime had migrated to Sweden. Now let that sink in. 58% of all the crimes were people from outside of Sweden coming in to the country. They weren't homogeneous Swedes. They were just people from all over the country, world, but they were coming with their habits and their customs and their crime, and it created a real problem. But here's the stat that blew my mind. 73% of attempted murders and manslaughters were from the migrants, not the Swedes. Now, the migrants make up a fraction of the population, committing 73% of the violent crimes in Sweden. This is the cost of illegal immigration if it's not controlled, because you just don't know who these people are.
If we had those statistics about the U.S., we would probably be angry.
You would be angry. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. And again, I did not say this because I sense the sensitivity behind this statement, and I think the writer sensed it as well. But just listen to these words. The guy's, he's 60 years old. He's an economist. And you can go look his name up if you want to. I don't want to get him in trouble. This is what he says. Even though most migrants are law-abiding people there, still the likelihood of a migrant, especially from the Middle East or Africa, especially below 50 years of age, committing a crime is much, much higher than the Swedish person. These are just the facts. Then he said, look, I'm not a populist. He's already backtracking. He has a PhD from the London School of Economics. Then he said, look, my material is not political in the least. This is data. These are stats.
Yeah.
And what he's saying is heavy immigration from African countries and Middle Eastern countries is creating a crime wave. Do you believe that?
Absolutely.
The data is backing it up. And it's not my data. I don't want to be blamed for this. He said it, he studied it, and it's happening. It's another cost of illegal immigration that occurs in areas when you bring people in that don't value your institutions, right? Right? They bring their own habits, their own traditions, their own languages, right?
Yeah.
Their own ways of being. And sometimes it creates friction. In fact, it can cause a breakup of some countries. They call it a balkanization because we used to have a common theme with language and religion and patriotism. But the more unfettered illegal immigration comes in, we can lose those concepts, can we not?
Absolutely.
And again, nobody's saying not to have it. It just needs to be legal and ordered and structured so we can keep up with what's occurring. That's all we're asking.
Absolutely, Chris. And you said a second ago that if this isn't under control, if it's not structured correctly, that it's going to be a problem. That's the inherent problem with allowing it to happen illegally in the first place. There's never going to be a structure as long as it's being done illegal. Because the problem we're running into here is the fact that we've got folks, and again, even some of the ones who may enter a country illegally might still be good people, but there's a lot of bad ones coming across too. And because we aren't enforcing our laws, we're not looking at who's actually coming in, we can't filter out the good from the bad.
Yeah, it makes it tough. It makes it tough. And our big problem, at least in our own party, is the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
You know, people are like, well, my Chamber of Commerce is great. I'm not talking about the Moselle, Mississippi Chamber of Commerce. I'm not talking about Hattiesburg Chamber of Commerce. I'm talking about the National Chamber of Commerce. And that whole National Chamber of Commerce doesn't care one bit about the American worker. Not one bit. All it cares about is maximizing the profits of its shareholders and members. And that means cheap labor. Cheap labor at all cost, right? Yes. And so they spend millions. No, probably, I don't know how much, hundreds of millions each year, I'm guessing. Maybe not each year, but a lot of money each year. And what they do is, you wonder why the issue of illegal immigration is never fixed. They're a big problem because Republicans are scared to go up against the Chamber of Commerce. They are. And here's the other reason it's not fixed, and this is going to get me in trouble too. 40 years we've been trying to close the border. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
40 years trying to close the deadgum border. Reagan dealt with this as best he could and made a big mistake with some of the amnesty he and O'Neill pushed through. 40 years trying to pass it. You ever wonder why they can't get it done?
Because they don't want to.
They don't want to.
That's right.
Fundraising.
Yep.
Fundraising. They know it's a hot button issue that keeps people engaged, and as long as the problem exists, they can fundraise off of it. If you solve the problem, what's the issue, right?
It's called job security.
It's called job security. They did the same thing with abortion.
Yep, they did.
Okay, now I'm going to blow your minds for a bit. Like, you do realize that at any point in time, Congress could have removed jurisdiction from the federal courts on the issue of abortion. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Could have removed it at any point in time and said, you're not going to hear those cases anymore. And the states could have decided what they wanted. We had numerical majorities many years where we could have done that, took zero action to do it. Why?
Because it was a fundraising issue to say that if you don't vote for us, abortion will be here to stay and it will be on demand.
The establishment's been playing us for chumps for as long as I can remember. And the problem is we got so many folks that still their eyes haven't opened. Give me a matrix moment. Take the red pill or the blue pill, Jack. Which do you take here? Listen, would you take the red pill?
I don't know. I mean,
Jack,
depends on how many rhinos.
Jack is clearly anti-drug. That was a metaphor for the Matrix.
I get it. I get it.
But the point is, if you ever open your eyes and you finally see that we're in this great game.
I think the problem is when you ask the question to somebody whose eyes are already open, they sometimes regret the fact that they did take the red pill.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, it's crazy to me when you think about all of these issues, and we've been fighting over the same issues for as long as I think I've been taking breath.
Yeah.
And here we are, still doing it.
It's frustrating because, again, we and you'll notice this as we continue to do this show, as I do my podcast and we see other shows, we're going to be talking about a lot of the same issues several times on several different episodes because they don't ever go away. And if we don't talk about them, even though we may have talked about the same thing 2 weeks ago, if we drop it, then it will go away. And we have no hope because we know that our politicians, present company excluded, aren't going to do anything about it. They're not going to stand up for us.
You know, it's funny. There's some good ones out there. I said earlier, and Kathy's one of those. But take one more issue, for instance. And this is the one that frustrates me, I think, the most because we used to be a party that fought against debt. Mm-hmm. Remember those good old days?
I do.
I mean, every politician of the Republican Party fought against debt. Every politician, it seemed, fought against the expansion of government power. I saw where y'all passed a budget this past year of over $7 billion, the highest budget in the history of the state of Mississippi, right, for state funds. We ran the whole government just 10 years ago on about $4.6 billion. So you've almost doubled the size of government under Republican control.
You have to understand, Chris, there's a lot of buddy projects that have to be paid for, They sold their soul and now they're being paid back. So,
hey, honest question. I think my experience was the last 4 years I was there, the Democrats were very happy with the direction of the...
They still are.
They're jubilant, aren't they? They're very satisfied.
Absolutely.
You get a behind the scenes and they're thinking, this is a miracle. The Republicans have a supermajority and our ideas are running the day.
That's exactly right. I had a simple resolution number 91, and it was just to support President Trump, to say we don't believe that he's guilty of the insurrection and everything that he's been accused of. Do you know why? I now ask, is my resolution coming out of committee? No. Why is it not coming out of committee? Well, if I let that resolution come out of committee, then I have to bring out Juneteenth and all the others. And I'm like, well, bring them to the floor. I know you don't have to, but if you feel like that, there's a need for it, bring them to the floor. Let us vote on them. Let us see who is a Republican and who is a rhino.
Well, I guess that was the pro tem Dean Kirby.
Yes.
You don't have to say it. I'll say it. Completely spineless the way you handled that. You have 36 votes in that chamber.
Yep.
They have 16.
Yep.
Don't tell me you have to bring out everything else. You don't, sir.
That's
you can
right.
bring out whatever conservative thing you want to bring out and
Whatever
pass it.
you want to bring out, that's it.
I tell you, it's the ultimate rhino line, isn't it?
It is. And I probably wouldn't fuss so much about Juneteenth, but my issue was they wanted to do away with our Confederate Memorial holiday and then replace it with Juneteenth. Don't take away my holiday.
Well, yeah, the thing is, they're erasing history.
Yeah.
There's no place for erasing history.
That's right.
And I've never understood tearing down a monument or burning a book. I don't get it. I don't get those mindsets. The more ideas we have, the better we are as a society, I think.
Yeah.
And if you're offended by it, that's cool. I'm super offended sometimes too, but I'm not going to take your stuff away, right?
That's right.
It's called pluralism, and we're supposed to live together in this very sometimes offensive society because we're adults, and that's the way free people are supposed to behave. But for whatever reason, we don't. And listen, I'm not trying to be too hard on your colleagues. I just hate that answer.
Go for it.
No, I just hate that answer.
Yeah.
I mean, you have 36 votes. Don't say you have to bring up other resolutions. You don't. You can bring up conservative resolutions whenever you want to, and you'll pass them because you've got 36 votes,
That's right.
or one would think.
And he himself is supposed to be a Republican. Why would he not want to bring that resolution out?
He probably did that just to spite you. Wouldn't you think? Or maybe...
That and Hostman,
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes on. And they think that it bothers me, and it doesn't. Not one bit.
Not one
I sit over there in your seat. I'm so proud to have your seat.
Yes.
The only way I'd want to give it up is if you were back over there to be my desk mate. But it doesn't bother me at all.
A long time ago, my daddy taught me about a lot of cool lessons before he passed away. And one dealt with who you allow to bother you. Who you allow to bother you. And that stuck to me a long, long time. People you respect, if they say something critical, people that have earned your respect, that might bother me.
Yeah.
But you have to earn that respect. And, the vast majority of those people just haven't acted in a way to earn any respect.
That's right.
And so, no, let them be critical. Who cares what they think?
Yeah.
And, now, again, there are still some good ones up there.
Yeah.
I don't mean to mean them all. But, no, I never had a lot of respect for this game everybody's playing. Just like you, Kathy, fight for your people. Do the right thing without trying to edge up the little ladder in the Capitol.
Right.
And you can do that by being independent-minded and conservative. And that's kind of where you are and have been, and I'm very, very pleased about that. We're getting close to the end here, and there was there's so much you and I could talk about. You got to promise to come back
We
at some
could talk
point.
for hours.
I could do a whole interview with the two of you guys, especially as somebody who's
Yeah.
not been in that chamber. I've got loads of questions, so we definitely need to do that. Yeah.
It would be fun. I mean, I know people think, well, they're being harsh. If you only knew how those people behave.
Exactly. And it's almost like they can say or think whatever they want, but whatever I say or think, you get beat down. If you're out there for the right reason, you
You
get beat down.
You're not being a good Republican, is what I
right.
tell you.
Well, it's funny. I know throughout history, the people that find themselves on the outs, that are being persecuted, a lot of times they're just on the right side of history, and it just hasn't caught up to it yet. And I think you're on the right side of history. And, at some point they may win the day and may kick us all out. And maybe one day we look up and there are no more Kathy Chisholms or Angela Hills or whatever the case may be. And if that's the case, that'll be a sad day. But at least, by God, we're going to fight for what we believe in.
That's right.
And I don't have to lay my head down at night wondering if I kissed enough butt.
That's right.
I can know and stand. I did what I thought was right the whole time.
Exactly.
And I'm perfectly satisfied with that. I don't know how they sleep with themselves.
I hear you. I agree.
I don't know. Maybe it's all the alcohol.
It probably helps. It probably does help.
Well, I don't drink, so I'm not
I
going to
know
go
you
there.
don't. I know you don't. I said that time.
It wouldn't take much alcohol to put me out to make me sleep.
Just one of the NyQuil.
And if ever I become one of the rhinos, it won't be hard to sleep because I can take one pill. That one drink.
I love it. I love it. Well, you encourage your fellow conservatives, and there's still some up there, and y'all fight as hard as you can, despite the odds being against you, despite the system being leveraged against you. Brighter days are ahead.
They are.
They're ahead. Hopefully, we can keep the fight going here and do what we have to do here to spread some of this truth, and we plan to over the next few years, God willing. And it's just been a blessing.
Just give us some more transparency of what's going on.
What's wrong with transparency? That's the other thing. We're gonna wrap this thing up. But listen, you know what they hate more than anything in this world?
Transparency.
They hate it. They hate it.
I don't want us to know what they're
No,
That's right.
one of the reasons they don't like Kathy is that when she actually votes like a conservative and they don't,
It exposes them.
they get exposed, and they hate that.
Yep.
You know, I remember, Chris, why don't you stop going on Facebook Live? Why don't you stop talking? You know. Well, I'm not scared of my record.
That's right.
I'm perfectly satisfied with my record. And my district's hitting me up there 4 times with high numbers because they were satisfied with my record too. So why wouldn't I talk about it?
Exactly.
And the answer is because they're afraid of being exposed.
Yeah.
I'm going to list the names one of these days. We're going to get after it.
I'm trying to educate everybody in my area that you can go to legislature, TURE, legislature.ms.gov, and there's the website. You can go to all of the bills. You can see what we're doing, see the vote. That's right. See how they voted, which of the bills were allowed to come out of committee, which were killed, which ones are killed in committee. They're good bills. Right. They get killed. All of mine get killed. Almost.
One of these days when you come back, we got to talk about, because it was always fun, because they killed all mine too.
Yeah.
And it was cool to kind of read them to people. And they were like, God, that sounds fabulous. And I'm like, right? Yeah. It's a great bill.
It's a great
and they
bill.
Still killed it for some reason. I'll let you guess why they killed it. But it's kind of neat when you watch it all unfold. But they hate transparency.
They do.
They hate it. And so I noticed the other day, I think it was it Rita? Somebody posted about what you accomplished with Stop Abuse.
Yes, Abuse.
Yeah,
yes.
Rita Abuse is a great lady. She's an activist in North Mississippi as well.
Yes.
And she posted about what you accomplished. And I mean to tell you, all the politicians' heads spun around. They couldn't stand it. That made me happy.
It made me happy too.
me happy,
And for the ones that are scared to stand up, they should take note to those posts, because you go, and even all of the shares and others that have copied and reposted, you go and look at all the comments. 99.9% are positive comments for me. That should tell the rhinos, stand up, have the nerve, have the backbone to stand up. Your people are going to support you if you're standing for the right reason.
Absolutely. I wish Mike Johnson could hear that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That he's a good guy, but he needs to understand that sometimes when you stand with the principle, the right things on the right side of the spectrum, you get a lot of courage created.
Yes.
And courage is contagious. Yes. And here you are. You're right. All those comments were incredibly positive, and yet they're so afraid of losing their committees, so afraid of having their bills killed. They just can't quite make the step over. And we're just glad that you have. So again, today, Senator Kathy Chisholm, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I don't say this lightly. Just a breath of fresh air.
Thank you.
And just to know that someone is standing there against the grain, just is somewhat satisfying.
And she prevented a rhino mask appearing today. So
It's never.
I don't want to sit beside that rhino mask.
It's never too late.
look, I can throw on a hat instead.
There, I can handle.
No, it doesn't really work with the
No, the headset. You look like put it on again. You look like a 1970s cartoon character. Like what was it? Looney Tunes? Not Looney Tunes. Hannibal Bear.
The Tasmanian devil. What? Isn't he the one?
I tell you what. Yeah, right. Hey, look, all this happened now. You're on an FBA watch list now.
Oh, of course
The FBI is coming.
Okay.
Can you get that thing straight?
I don't think so. I'm not sure it's the right size.
No, put it on like this, parallel to me.
Like that?
Yeah, that's how they wore it.
All right. Like so. That felt the worst out of any of them.
Like Howdy Doody or
I
something.
blame the founders of the network for that.
I'm just glad it's not a requirement to wear that hat to be on the show.
Oh, but it is.
No,
that way.
maybe next episode. Maybe the next episode. All right. Well, this was fun, Carl. Thank y'all very much. Jack, thank you as always. This is Chris McDaniel's America. We'll see you next time.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took My Pillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented My Pillow to bring you the best pillow in history, My Pillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that My Pillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The My Pillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last My Pillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. My Pillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new My Pillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a MyPillow or not, you need to get the brand new MyPillow 2.0. Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit MyPillow.com.